Thank you, Chairman Reza, for opening our event, and also thank you to Senator Mulyandi for extending the message from Mr. Erick Thohir, the Minister of State-Owned Enterprises of the Republic of Indonesia. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin our first session. Ladies and gentlemen, our first session today is Financial Innovation to Improve Indonesia's Economy. And our next moderator is a graduate from Universitas Indonesia, Université de Lille, and New York University. He is also the director of Asetku and the deputy head of Division, Literation, Education, and Research at Asosiasi Fintech Pendanaan Bersama Indonesia. Please give a warm welcome for Mr. Andrisyah Tauladan.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Aldi, as an MC, to send me here. It is a privilege for me to be in this event. I think it's a really beautiful event and lots of insightful topics that are going to be discussed. And I think we're going to have a really good experience in this event. So hopefully all of you participants will enjoy this event. Coming back to you, Aldi.
Thank you, Mr. Andri. Before we begin this first session, I would like to remind all the participants in the Zoom that starting from right now, you can send your questions via the question box so that we will discuss it at the end of the session. And I would like to say hi and to extend my greetings to Mr. Andri as our first moderator. So good afternoon, Mr. Andri.
Good afternoon. Nice to meet you, Aldi.
Nice to meet you too. And how are you doing today?
I'm doing very good.
Excellent. Okay. So before we begin your first session, I would like to ask you a short question. How do you see fintech as an innovation to improve Indonesia's economy?
Okay, I think personally speaking, I think fintech is going to play a really crucial role in supporting Indonesia's economy going forward. It's going to be like an extra layer of how to achieve financial inclusions in Indonesia as per the target of our government. So I think fintech in Indonesia is going to be very, very central in terms of their role in advancing our economy, especially in the social economy for the unbanked and undeserved society in Indonesia.
Excellent. So, Mr. Andri, without further ado, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for welcoming me one more time. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. First of all, I would like to welcome and greet all of the participants that are already here today with us. I hope that all of you will have a very insightful and a very good experience in listening to all of the topics that's going to be delivered with our honorable and distinguished speakers. Without further ado, I would like to segue our event into our first topic that's going to be SMEs as the backbone of Indonesia's economy and will be delivered by our honorable keynote speaker, Bapak Fadjar Hutomo, ST, MMT, CFP, as the Deputy of Industry and Investment of the Ministry of Tourism and Creative Economy of the Republic of Indonesia.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderators. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished panelists, all angel investors, entrepreneurs, startups, and every stakeholders, the participants of World Business Angel Investor Week 2021. I, in this afternoon, in this occasion, especially represent Mr. Sandiaga Uno, or Mas Sandi, the Minister of Tourism and Creative Economy. So, officially, I would like to read the speech, the ministry speech that has already prepared for the minister in Bahasa. So, let me read Mas Menteri speech in Bahasa. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Shalom. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, Rahayu, salam sehat untuk kita semua. Selamat siang para angel investor, entrepreneur, startup, dan para stakeholder yang mengikuti kegiatan World Business Angel Investor Week 2021. Saya secara khusus mewakili Menteri Pariwisata dan Ekonomi Kreatif yang berhalangan hadir, mengapresiasi kegiatan ini karena Indonesia untuk pertama kalinya menyelenggarakan World Business Angel Investor Week tahun ini dengan mengundang para pembicara-pembicara terbaik di bidangnya dan mengundang para stakeholders terkait untuk dapat mengikuti kegiatan yang luar biasa ini. UMKM merupakan pilar terpenting dalam perekonomian Indonesia. Berdasarkan data dari Kementerian Koperasi dan UKM, jumlah UMKM saat ini mencapai 64,2 juta, dengan kontribusi terhadap PDB sebesar 61,07%, atau sekitar 8.573 triliun rupiah. Kontribusi UMKM terhadap perekonomian Indonesia mampu menyerap 97% dari total tenaga kerja yang ada, serta menghimpun hingga 60,4% dari total investasi. Untuk menjawab tantangan itu, pemerintah melaksanakan sejumlah program untuk mendukung UMKM, di antaranya program bantuan insentif, ada bantuan usaha pemerintah untuk usaha mikro, bantuan pemerintah untuk usaha mikro, BPUM, kemudian melalui program PEN, ada kredit usaha rakyat, Gerakan Nasional Bangga Buatan Indonesia, digitalisasi pemasaran UKM, dan lain sebagainya. Termasuk juga upaya strategi jangka panjang menaikkan kelas UMKM melalui Undang-Undang Cipta Kerja. Indonesia memiliki potensi ekonomi digital yang sangat besar. Untuk itu, Presiden Jokowi menginstruksikan untuk mempercepat upaya mendorong para pelaku UMKM masuk ke ekosistem digital. Kemenparekraf memproyeksikan kontribusi UMKM terutama UMKM yang telah terdigitalisasi akan meningkat pesat di masa yang akan datang. Proyeksi tersebut didasarkan pada populasi Indonesia yang saat ini berjumlah 274,9 juta jiwa, sementara secara nasional perangkat ponsel yang ada sebanyak 345,3 juta ponsel. Sedangkan dari jumlah tersebut terdapat 202,6 juta jiwa pengguna internet di Indonesia dan pengguna aktif media sosial sebesar 170 juta jiwa. Melihat peluang nilai ekonomi internet di Indonesia tersebut, kontribusi startup atau ekonomi digital memperlihatkan tren yang positif selama tahun 2015 hingga 2025 dan mempunyai angka pertumbuhan yang paling pesat di Asia Tenggara. Juga menarik ketika kita melihat data investasi dari venture capital atau modal ventura selama tahun 2021 ini juga menunjukkan pertumbuhan yang bahkan lebih tinggi dari 2019. Pada tahun 2024, pemerintah mentargetkan 30 juta pelaku UKM dapat onboarding ke dalam ekosistem digital. Untuk mencapai target tersebut, perlu strategi yang proaktif untuk mendorong pelaku UMKM masuk ke ekosistem digital, mulai dari melakukan pendampingan, kurasi produk, hingga ke pengembangan sumber daya manusianya. Berdasarkan data dari IDEA, Asosiasi E-commerce Indonesia, per Mei 2021, jumlah pelaku UMKM yang sudah onboarding baru sebanyak 13,7 juta pelaku atau sekitar 21% dari total UMKM yang ada di Indonesia. Dukungan dan kerjasama serta kolaborasi dalam membangun UMKM dan industri anak bangsa berbasis teknologi tepat guna memasuki era industri 4.0 perlu terus ditingkatkan. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, kebijakan pemerintah dalam merespon transformasi ekonomi digital di era digital ini salah satunya adalah melakukan digitalisasi UMKM untuk mempermudah UMKM memasuki rantai pasok global. Program digitalisasi UMKM bertujuan mendorong para pelaku usaha pariwisata dan ekonomi kreatif dalam melakukan kegiatan perniagaan, mulai dari promosi, distribusi, hingga transaksi produk. Saat ini permodalan masih menjadi salah satu kendala yang besar bagi para pelaku usaha di Indonesia. Sebagian besar usaha, 92,37%, masih mengandalkan modal sendiri atau pinjaman dari keluarga untuk mengembangkan usahanya. Para pelaku kesulitan untuk mendapatkan akses ke lembaga keuangan, baik itu lembaga keuangan perbankan maupun keuangan non-perbankan. Hanya sekitar 24,44% yang memperoleh pembiayaan dari perbankan dan 0,66% dari lembaga keuangan non-perbankan, berdasarkan survei ekonomi kreatif yang dilakukan BPS tahun 2016. Untuk itu kami melakukan beberapa intermediasi agar para UMKM ini mampu mengakses pembiayaan tidak hanya dari lembaga perbankan, tetapi juga dari lembaga non-perbankan seperti angel investor serta fintech. Antara lain, dengan meningkatkan pemahaman lembaga keuangan, baik perbankan maupun non-perbankan, mengenai karakteristik, nature bisnis, rantai nilai dari sektor usaha pariwisata dan ekonomi kreatif. Yang kedua, meningkatkan kemampuan dan kapasitas usaha pariwisata serta pelaku usaha ekonomi kreatif terkait pengelolaan keuangan, sehingga para pelaku ekonomi kreatif dapat mengambil langkah untuk pengembangan usahanya dan layak memperoleh pembiayaan dari perbankan maupun non-perbankan. Yang ketiga, dengan melakukan kegiatan temu bisnis atau matchmaking yang mempertemukan para pelaku usaha pariwisata dan ekonomi kreatif dengan sumber-sumber pendanaan yang ada. Untuk dapat berkembang, para UMKM membutuhkan hal-hal sebagai berikut. Yang pertama adalah akses terhadap sumber pembiayaan. Yang kedua, kemampuan pengelolaan keuangan. Yang ketiga, pemanfaatan teknologi informasi dan komunikasi secara optimal. Persoalan legalitas usaha atau badan hukum usaha, serta hak kekayaan intelektual. Kebijakan spesifik Kemenparekraf terkait pengembangan ekonomi digital di Indonesia dengan meluncurkan Gerakan Nasional Bangga Buatan Indonesia di tahun 2021 yang bertujuan untuk mempercepat kebangkitan ekonomi pasca pandemik, mendorong national branding produk lokal yang unggul, menciptakan industri baru, mendorong pertumbuhan ekonomi yang sejalan dengan munculnya rasa bangga dan pro produk UMKM lokal. Bapak Ibu yang saya hormati, Kementerian Pariwisata dan Ekonomi Kreatif sebagai tindak lanjut dari Undang-Undang Ekonomi Kreatif, Undang-Undang Nomor 19 tahun 2000, Undang-Undang Nomor 24 tahun 2019 juga tengah menyiapkan rancangan peraturan pemerintah mengenai IP financing atau pembiayaan berbasis hak kekayaan intelektual. Skema pembiayaan ini diharapkan akan mampu menjadi salah satu solusi dan menjadi opsi bagi kendala akses pembiayaan yang dihadapi khususnya oleh UKM, UMKM di sektor pariwisata dan ekonomi kreatif. UMKM memiliki peran yang penting dan strategis dalam pembangunan ekonomi nasional. Selain berperan dalam pertumbuhan ekonomi dan penyerapan tenaga kerja, UMKM juga berperan dalam mendistribusikan hasil-hasil pembangunan. UMKM juga telah terbukti tidak terpengaruh terhadap krisis atau sedikit pengaruhnya terhadap krisis. Ketika krisis menerpa pada periode tahun 97-98, UMKM yang kokoh, yang mampu tetap berdiri dengan kokoh. Berdasarkan data BPS, pada krisis ekonomi tahun 98, kontribusi UMKM terhadap PDB nasional tumbuh 52,24% dibandingkan tahun sebelumnya. Ini membuktikan bahwa UMKM mampu menjadi tulang punggung ekonomi di saat krisis. Pun demikian, di saat pandemi saat ini, situasi pandemi ini di satu sisi memang telah menghambat atau menurunkan roda perekonomian kita. Tetapi di sisi yang lain, telah membuka kesempatan baru, terutama melalui digital. Pandemi ini telah nyata-nyata menjadi katalisator dan mempercepat terjadinya perubahan perilaku dari konsumen, termasuk di dalam hal digital. Tentunya ini merupakan hal yang perlu diperhatikan dan perlu kita ditindaklanjuti oleh segenap para pemangku kepentingan untuk mengembangkan atau membangun peran dari UMKM kita di sektor pariwisata maupun ekonomi kreatif. Mari bersama kita jaga Indonesia. Terima kasih atas kesempatan yang telah diberikan. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Bapak Fadjar Hutomo, for the insightful topic. I see that there are several things that we can take out from Pak Fadjar's speech here, that we are currently embarking in the digital economy. Therefore, our SMEs has also moved towards digitalization in order to seize the opportunity that currently is happening right now. Due to the pandemic, it's going to be catalyzed all of the behavior that needs to be taken over by our SMEs. To Pak Fadjar itself, thank you very much, Pak, for all of the insights that you have given us. I would like to ask you to stay a little bit with us, Pak, and take a little bit to commemorate the event, commemorate the moment with us, to take a photo together with our chairman. And I would like to re-invite our chairman here, Mr. Mulyandi Nasution, to take a photo with Pak Fadjar Hutomo.
Hello, thank you, Pak Fadjar.
Hello.
Thank you for the support.
Hello, Mr. Mulyandi. Good to have you here.
Inviting us.
So right now we're going to take our commemorative photo in 3, 2, 1. One more time. In 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for all of this insightful topic. And therefore, I would like to end the first session with Pak Fadjar Hutomo, and we would like to proceed to our second topic briefly. Hello, welcome back everybody to this first session, and we're going to go into our second topic, which is a very interesting one. So our second topic is going to be the financial system transformation, shifting towards better digital economy in Indonesia. And this topic is going to be delivered by our distinguished second panel speaker. I would like to invite Mr. Aldi Adrian Hartanto, partner at Arise VC, and VP of Investment at MDI Ventures. Aldi,
Andre,
Adrian.
how are you?
Hi, how are you? We meet again. Thank you for coming into this event. And I would like to give our most appreciation to you here for having us in this event. And I hope that all of your topic is going to be very insightful for all of the participants here in this beautiful day and this beautiful event. And I would like to give you all of the time and room, and hopefully you might enjoy this session. Thank you. The floor is yours now, Mr. Aldi.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, definitely for World Business Angel Investor Week. Thanks for all the what you call it, the pleasure and greetings for all the panelists, speakers, event organizers, all the angel investors, entrepreneurs, and founders. Thanks for having me. Definitely will be a pleasure, and then congrats for Indonesia, obviously, to be the host for the first time I would be a host for the G20 next year. I heard it's in Bali. Definitely looking forward to be there as well. I have opportunity for my colleagues to be there as well for this year in with from a second was actually in Italy. Regarding to today's topics, right, I think Pak Fadjar been obviously laying out the right ground, especially related to how financial service, especially fintech, right, be able to really take the SMEs or small medium enterprise to the next level. But I think in terms of the whole overall, what we believe as well in terms of the financial transformations in Indonesia primarily going forwards, right? I think as we have seen in the last couple of years, I think fintech become one of the best word that obviously democratize a lot of things that initially, you may actually not really thinking about financial service is actually something that's not sexy in certain level, but now but we would say that actually a lot of companies now become fintech companies, because I think there's a couple driver or so-called like the catalyst that really drives that, right? Which is obviously I think the first trait that we've seen is the digitalizations of the overall financial services stuff. Because as we know, financial service, technically, if you want to oversimplify the business itself, the business model is basically only have three parts, right? Which is first is obviously related to payments. Second is funding, or probably anything like to saving, investment, etc. And the third part obviously related to lending, and how these three parts actually being connected is when you actually be able to move your money easily, which is on the payment side, then you will think about, hey, I'm actually be able to move my money easily with this. So I want to put my money freely in this particular bank or this particular institutions, right? Then the banks or the financial institution will get the funding, and then using that funding, they will be able to redistribute that particular funding to the other parties, what in the form of loans or lending, so whether it's actually to consumers, to businesses, or multiple other stakeholders, right? So I think fintech in Indonesia primarily been around, technically been started to be established since 2016 and 17 back, which OJK, which is like SEC of Indonesia, issue a new regulations, so-called like P2P lending or POJK 77. So that particular new licenses is actually the one who really be able to spur fintech initially at the time. Well, also on the monetary side or the payment side, Bank Indonesia, which is actually who actually control or oversee or govern the payment system in Indonesia, also have a payment gateway license and e-wallet licenses. This particular licensing been around for a while, but since then been relatively a lot of companies been starting to acquire those particular licenses in this particular race, right? And we started to see, we could say like the first wave of fintech development in Indonesia, which primarily tackling on those particular two basic components, which is either payments or lending, right? Now, these payments and lending is very critical because that's kind of like the basic of how the business actually, the whole financial system actually work for. And as I think Fadjar mentioned as well, access to finance obviously highly critical to really be able to help multiple institutions, especially for small and medium enterprise to grow, right? So we've seen a lot of companies that they'll be able to tackle those particular components and now become obviously a multi-billion companies, right? So example is let's say Gojek, now they have GoPay, now become GoTo, which is one of the most valuable companies in Indonesia, right? And we also have a lot of some companies like OVO, for example, become payments or wallets of Indonesia, and a couple others as well. And the second part as well is primarily obviously after the lending, we've seen a lot of companies that actually be able to grow those particular lending part. But in the first this particular ways that we actually start to realize and see, some people may see that, oh, Indonesia is very attractive because we have a lot of so-called like unbanked populations, right, or people that don't have access to banks or any financial institution, where their family bill to saving, or like put their money under the pillow, right? But at which primarily these particular companies initially being expected to tackle those particular parts. But we start to realize as well in the past 3-5 years, turns out that there's the third category that actually emerging that these guys actually tackle so far, which is initially is so-called like bankable and unbankable population, but we start to realize or seen this so-called like emerging category, so-called the underbanked, right? Meaning that these guys actually already have exposure to banking or financial service or financial institutions in general, but they haven't really been able to optimize or have the optimum exposure in terms of that. For example, I have a bank account in one bank, but I haven't really used that particular bank account yet because currently it's very challenging for me to, for example, get a credit card, or if I want to get loans, right, or for even like very small loans like unsecured loan, or like so-called KTA in Indonesia, or unproportionate loans, right? Or for mortgage, auto loan, and this kind of stuff. Right? So this fintech actually trying to simplify the whole process. That's why now this underbank instead of doing that particular banking or financial transaction with conventional bank, they prefer to these multiple fintech companies. Simply, they are be able to offer that in much simpler manner, faster way, obviously much more efficient in terms of the whole process, especially in these new generations where so especially younger generation, so-called now like millennials, right? One of the key part that they're actually looking is so-called instant gratifications, but they want to get anything instant, right? Back in the days, for example, when we were like 20s, like couple 10, 20 years ago, when we want to buy, for example, something, we need to go to the stores, right? Now we could just buying online. The goods were coming to us. So similar to financial service as well, it actually happened. So that's why the one who actually shifted actually more like this so-called the underbank. So there's actually eating the certain pie that actually the banks already tend to offer, or banks already get the customers, but they cannot really be able to optimize or really be able to monetize further, right? So now we already seen that a lot of these guys primarily be able to kind of like offer a better payment service or better lending service. The second ways that we start to see is actually so-called like there's a three trends that we see in primarily, which is first is obviously optimization for these particular underbanks. The second part is primarily the real kind of like the solutions towards the unbanked populations, meaning that we realize that the underbanked and the unbanked behave very differently, where people that haven't really experienced or any exposure to any financial institution have very unique and specific use cases or needed. That's why we see a lot of companies that are specific want to tackle those particular parts. And the third, third trend that we see is primarily a so-called the digitalized banking infrastructures. So it's not necessarily payment lending or the funding, but it's more of enablers part, right? Whether it's actually the security, KYC, email, this particular infrastructure that they be able for you to do financial transaction. This type of trend is companies will start to see a lot of them to do it. For the first part related to the optimizing the underbanks, right? So now we already do payments and lending. The missing one, as we mentioned, is about funding, right? So funding is a lot of caveat to it. You're actually able to offer multiple products related to funding, but the one that's been relatively, we could say, prominent, especially after COVID, is investing or wealth. Well, people are now started to be more cautious in terms of distributing their wealth through whether it's actually stock market, crypto investments, or multiple alternative investments, right? So they primarily tend to have more exposure towards investment, especially this type of like so-called like Corona investors, where they've seen a lot of returns during the COVID when they actually buy the index during the dip, right? So we've seen a lot of kind of like they're rushing in terms of these particular segments. It's seen as well in terms of the macro standpoint. In Indonesia Stock Exchange, we've seen like the number of investors actually triple just during 2020. Initially, it's only less than 200,000. Now we're actually reaching almost 600,000 in terms of the overall retail investors, right? So that's how this new trend is coming in, where the one who actually be able to wrap those most of those investors, actually these so-called like tech-enabled securities or tech-enabled investment firm were be able to give a lot of ease in simplicity in terms of investing, stock investing. And the other part, obviously, the rise of so-called like digital banking. Right? So we've seen a lot of digital banking initiative in the past couple of years, because we've seen that, okay, we already have so-called like this banking, what you call it, the payments or lending services. Now they actually want to be able to tackle in terms of the funding part. The only way to be able to over saving accounts are to become a bank. So usually the way they do it, actually they want to be a so-called like these multiple bank, so-called like the digital banking propositions, whether it's actually other unicorns and other stuff, and also for conventional banking, offering like new set of products, or for example, some conglomerates actually leveraging their use cases to offer the banks, which actually goes to another within this particular sub trend is the rise of so-called embedded finance, right? So we've seen a lot of companies that initially not a fintech companies, now they actually start to offer a lot of financial service product. For example, even for example, our biggest e-wallet payment companies, one of the biggest e-wallet payment companies, which is GoPay, is actually not a payment company fundamentally. They're actually part of a ride-hailing or e-commerce group, which is GoTo, right? So we've seen a lot of companies that actually starting initially offering non-financial service product, but with that particular use cases or ecosystem that they built, now then eventually they actually start to offer multiple financial product in the form of whether it's actually e-commerce company, whether it's actually logistic companies, whether it's actually a so-called like the non-commerce business, ride hailing, those kind of stuff actually started to offer financial services. That's what we've seen a lot of shift in terms of how optimizing these underbanked populations, right? The second that we start to see is primarily a very highly tailored unbanked population solutions, right? But we've seen that these particular guys, for example, these like multiple digital bank or like this particular ride-hailing services, etc., they haven't really been able to touch the unbanked populations because those guys are very different in terms of use cases, right? In terms of what they actually need. For example, this they're actually looking for small. It's about use cases. They look for payments. They're looking for a very small denominator of kind of airtime or a pulsar, right, for people to buy data and etc. Or for example, they're looking for use cases for them to pay for some small stores, etc. Pay for some utilities bills and etc. So start to see a lot of companies trying to offer that by having a very tailored use cases for unbanked. Whether, for example, we've seen a lot of companies that are trying to enable or empower a lot of small stores in unbanked population, change this particular small stores into so-called like a bank branch instead of conventional bank full-fledged branch. Or for example, having like multiple agents model business that be able to act as a relationship manager or RM in bank by offering not only just financial service product but also other stuff as well related to what they need. Right? So we've seen a lot of companies that looking at this, especially also the second part that we've seen is also the rise of Sharia product or Sharia bank related product, where we've seen that because Indonesia is one of the largest and basically the largest Muslim countries in the world. We've seen a lot of, especially in unbanked in rural areas, we've seen a lot of local rules related to a Muslim kind of like the activities will be very, very crucial. So that's why we've seen a lot of Sharia proposition emerging, whether actually become a digital Sharia bank or, for example, offering a Sharia specific product and then those kind of stuff, right? So we did actually try to tailor or tackle this particular needed from the unbanked population. And the third part, we start to see a lot of kind of like infrastructures being developed for people to be able doing transaction, especially the one that being expected is related to the API architecture or open banking architecture, right, where people be able to connect multiple APIs and be able to create easiness in terms of the whole transactions, whether it's actually payments, lending, and others as well. Right? But some of the parts that actually start emerging is primarily related to KYC. So people are initially, if they want to open bank account, etc., they need to go to the store, the branch, and meet with the rest manager, etc. Now we're expecting a lot of solution in order to do that. Right? And the second part is related to security, cyber security, because we've seen a lot of digital payments emerging. That's why this particular payment transaction is actually much more seamless. Because of the less frictionless product or the process. Obviously, there's a loophole in terms of the overall security. So we've seen a lot of companies that solving those particular online payment securities specific product to be able to secure and be able to assure that this easiness is not reducing any security or compliance or related to multiple jurisdictions that they need. So those three that we've seen primarily related to how the financial service been transforming, especially in Indonesia. And obviously we still see that this is only the tip of the iceberg, and definitely we've been looking forward to how we will shape up moving forward. And definitely we'll have to discuss further with the other panelists during the session. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your speech right now, Mr. Aldi. It's very insightful. I would like to bring us over to our Q&A question, actually, and we would like to discuss a little bit more about what you have delivered for us. So based on your statement that there are three main components that currently going on in Indonesia, and particularly I'm interested in terms of the Sharia product. You said it's something crucial in Indonesia. However, in my personal opinion, that currently the Sharia products or services right now is not really on par in terms of the conventional ones in Indonesia. What are the things that you think need to be done, or the transformation, other kinds of initiatives or infrastructure that this Sharia initiative needed in order to compete or to serve the Indonesian society? Like you said, we're actually dominated by Muslims, right? So I think it's really relevant to discuss this Sharia product. Maybe you can give us some of your insights about it.
Absolutely. I think it's a very clear questions, and obviously some people have been questioning about. One of the things that we've been looking is and especially why I think this like new bank or like digital proposition for Sharia will be very critical, because what we've seen in the conventional banking ways, and if you have seen, for example, the biggest Sharia bank in Indonesia, usually very much ties in with the biggest or some of the large conventional banks in Indonesia. Which one of the tricky part of that, unfortunately, Sharia only become only just become sort of like a gimmick or branding for this particular bank to tackle this particular kind of like the customers or users, right? Where unfortunately some of the in terms of practicality, the way the Sharia bank, big conventional Sharia bank trying to grow is actually just piggybacking their parent conventional bank, where they have set of, say for example, some customers, SMEs, or like borrowers or users that might not be fit for a conventional, which just might not be the best asset quality, and they pass it to this particular Sharia conventional, right? What we are trying to envision is more of not necessarily a pure bank type of product, but again, more like Sharia proposition. The initial they should start as, for example, so-called like now the one been trending is the so-called like social commerce, right? For example, agent-based or arisan type of model commerce, where people are be able to transact multiple products, especially Sharia related product, whether it's a halal product, whether it's actually a fashion related to Muslim product, those kind of stuff that very much tied in with the roots of these multiple type of populations. Then with this particular use cases, they are you offering, and which obviously very much a repeat purchase, right? Then they will start to sipping in multiple other use cases, whether saving for Hajj, right, saving for Umrah, or for multiple other or for zakat and zakat fitrah and etc. Right? Multiple other use cases on top of it, where so people are, when they are doing transaction with this particular platform, they're not necessarily see them as whether it's actually a Sharia bank or Sharia kind of like the financial institutions. So that way the experience of the user experience will be much more seamless, and people are not reluctant to do it, because at the moment, unfortunately, banks still being perceived as there's a so-called what you call it the terms in Muslim, where it's riba, right? Or what you call it, like something that not halal for me to do transaction in terms of financial service. So that's why having this type of unique branding by not purely becoming a bank or formal financial institution, but offering multiple financial product, I think a very unique proposition for this particular untapped opportunities or populations.
Okay, that's a really interesting point of view that you're having there, and I'm quite agree about the approach that you think that piggybacking and also trying to get more accounts and users to go into the services is really one of the most important thing to really emphasize in this product. One more thing that I want to ask you about the wealth distribution services that you said that during 2020 there are 3 times new accounts or investors coming in, the rush in trend coming in terms of distribution, wealth management services. On the other side, we see that currently we have a target of around 75 to 85% of financial inclusions just for the unbanked. So I see there's a lot of polarization going on right now in terms of the more savviness people and also the very basic needs of financial. Where do you think it's going to emerge in the near future for Indonesia?
Absolutely. I think from my point of view, right? Again, that's why I'm trying to categorize instead of just two, which is unbanked and unbanked, right? I also want to add the other third category, we call it like underbanked, right? So meaning they already have financial service product, they already have bank account, or even multiple bank account, but they barely doing any transaction simply because it is very complicated. There's a lot of hassle for me to do transaction, whether actually opening a credit account, investing, opening an insurance product, and etc. Right. So we believe that and the journey usually will be, again, as we mentioned, it's always be, from my point of view, what we learn as well is obviously payments, funding, and lending, right? So it's all be going to that particular kind of like order, right?
Payment service,
So
yeah.
usually, even for funding as well, before we do like this type of, for example, investment, or whether it's actually, which mutual funds, or stocks, or even like some of the other investment like crypto and etc. Even at the moment for the unbanked populations, opening a bank account and doing saving is still very tricky for them and very challenging. And there's a reason for that, because if you, even for example, for those, especially we're talking about rural area, even for example the biggest bank, which obviously we have this as one of the sponsors, Bank BRI, we still have challenges to really be able to tackle or be able to offer this particular market, right? Because the infrastructure is not there. For example, for a bank account, so for a bank opening a branch, usually will cost them around 200K to 300K, right? And depending on the transaction, if you are expecting, for example, first city, you may be able to get back your money for the whole, NPV, return on investment for this particular bank branch. You may get it back for like 3 years or 4 years. But for the rural areas, which obviously have a much lower transactions, but relatively similar cost structures, then they may not be able to open a bank on it, be able to, what you call it, they open the bank, right? Or get back the money from the bank branch, right? That's why we've seen a lot of banks actually closing down the branch. That's why we believe that digitalization will be very critical. But the digitalization cannot be purely just, giving a smartphone to this particular population and they will be able to transact using that, right? Unfortunately, there's still a lot of handholding that we need. That's why we believe that it's kind of like offline and online model will be something that very critical, and it has to be something that where the users or the customers being familiar with their particular, local kind of like the traits or behaviors, whether in, again, mentioned arisan, which is family, they're a community between it, multiple agent model, those kind of stuff, or for example, a toko or stores in rural area will call it warung, or in some other market, sari-sari, and etc., where they actually already interacting regularly, and they will be able to offer multiple financial products through that. So that way, the user will not have to shift their behavior significantly and be able to adopt much easier. So in terms of, back again to, in terms of what point of view, I think in terms of the underbanked populations, which is at the moment from a second family, around 20 to 30 million people at the moment in Indonesia, they are start to be able to adopt multiple investment product, whether it's, stock investment, mutual funds, even for example, some of the product, insurance products, they start to adopt that. That actually will be a tackle for those things. But the rest of that, which is at the moment, I think we're currently still roughly around like almost 50% are unbanked at the moment, which is around 125 million people. At least I think the goal for the next 5 to 10 years is just to have them opening up a bank account, just doing saving, shifting their saving from initially under a pillow to, this formal
The conversions,
financial
yeah,
institutions,
yeah.
whether it's actually digital or not, right? So then we may expect another decade, another 2 decades, then we will probably expecting these
I see.
guys will rushing in, same as what we've seen in 2020, to investing in whether it's actually stock, bonds, mutual funds, and others as well.
Okay, that really makes sense. The funneling from the start of the basic needs until the more sophisticated services are,
That's true.
it needs to be done starting from yesterday, maybe not now. That's a
Unfortunately,
really
that's the case, right?
that's a really insightful,
But we have to start.
insightful mindset right now. However, now I have a question coming in from one of our participant here, Mr. Aldi, from Muhammad Akmal Maula. So I think this is quite an intriguing question. He asked how the youth would be interested with the Sharia investing in this era.
That's a very interesting question. We also have that particular questions as well when we are trying to build our so-called the Sharia thesis lah. So the way we do it, we usually build our investment thesis first before primarily investing in or make decisions. So we're trying to build our investment thesis. We talk with multiple users, so-called kind of doing an FTD and multiple stakeholders within that, right? What we started to be interested is we started to be intrigued because obviously the digital product highly ties in with youth or these like young generations, right? Because obviously some generation, you have a senior, but your grandparents, right? They are early 60s, 70s. It's challenging for them to adopt new technologies, right? Unfortunately, that's the case, right? Some grandparents might be, very irregular where they be able to adopt a lot of things, but mostly not, right? So we expect them with this young generation to do it, which obviously, if you really want to wrap so-called low-hanging fruits, obviously the younger generations, right? So we initially thought that, hey, Sharia, kind of like, or any Muslim-related product, usually being perceived as old school, very conventional. This is basically what my mom, my dad did, right? Those kind of stuff, right? But we realized there's a new trend coming in, especially in Indonesia, where we realize it's actually coming in a big way, not only just for in certain tier of city, but generally in multiple spectrums. There's a new trend called hijrah, right? Or we call it like people are somehow, a lot of, so-called like cooler influencer actually trying to, especially because social media, people are set to deep dive about, Muslim community and everything. So having said that, we realize that this makes the adoption of Sharia product, if they could brand it or do the go-to-market strategy correctly, then people will start be able to adopt. For example, they'll be able to touch multiple influencers that be able to really want to endorse this particular trend, right? And you could piggyback this particular trend by offering this product that they'll be able to fit in what they want, right? While also be able to, which is something that's very tricky. Is again, that's why I think there's a lot of things that need to be done for the conventional Sharia bank, because it cannot be just pure branding or a gimmick, right? It has to be, because this particular type of new trend populations are very attention to detail, like in terms of whether they're actually following the whole traits of Muslims or not, right? While also be able to find the right way, middle way to make it relatively cooler or those kind of stuff. Well, so this young generation be able to adopt, right? So that's why I think that's why we believe that the right way to do it is not to be a pure financial institution, but offering something else first, whether again could be a commerce proposition, whether for example it's a payment proposition, etc. Then eventually they will offer this multiple financial products, so people are not really feeling that they actually make interaction with the financial institution, but simply just a platform that they trust, right? Then eventually we're sipping in a lot of multiple financial products moving forward.
Okay, that's a really good point of view there. So having like an interaction with a platform rather than diving into the financial product is something I think everyone should think about in terms of the people that is developing the platforms. Maybe if you hear us here, you might want to take 1 or 2 points from Pak Aldi here. So at the end of our discussion here, Pak Aldi, I would really again say thank you. What a pleasure and what a privilege to have a discussion with you today. And I would like to invite you to take a photo for a commemorative event here together with our chairman. And I would like to re-invite our chairman, Bapak Mulyandi Nasution. Hello, Pak Mulyandi Nasution.
Hello.
Good to have you again here. And here
Thank
we
you,
have
Thank
Pak
you for your
Aldi.
time and for your opportunity. Let's work together. Let's collaborate together with WBAW and make the
Thanks for having me,
Indonesia
Pak.
the most successful host for G20 next year.
Amen to that.
I'm into that. I second that. Okay, now we're going to take our photos shortly, and I'm going to count from 3 to 1, starting from now. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, one more time. 3, 2, 1. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending this second topic. Thank you again, Pak Aldi Adrian Nasution. This is a very, very insightful and a very exciting topic that I've heard, and I think hopefully it's going to give a lot of positiveness into our event going forward. Thank you very much, and now we're going to transition into our third topic. We're back to our third topic here right now. We know we already been going through our first and our second topic, which is a very, very insightful ones. And I would like to invite all of you participants to go dive into our third topic, which is growth versus profitability in early stage businesses. And this topic will be delivered by our distinguished panel speaker, Bapak Arif Patrick Rahmat, the Director of Triputra Group and Chairman of Endeavor Indonesia. I would like to give you the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege to be invited to contribute at this event. Today, I would like to attempt to tackle the dilemma of profitability versus growth in early stage financial business, a question posed by the organizing committee. But before I directly answer that question, allow me first to take a step back and see myself from the angel investor's point of view and decide what my investment thought process or criteria should be. So I will share with you my personal opinion. But I just have to have this disclaimer first that there are many other better investors than I am. So please listen with open eyes. The first fundamental philosophy of investing is in two words, or maybe one word, cash flow. Whether it is a value versus growth, it is all about cash flow. Eventually, as an investor, you will make money when a company returns bottom line cash flow with net present value bigger than its capital. So the legendary Warren Buffett knows this very well. Early on, he learned from old Benjamin Graham that what they called the cigar butt approach. A cigar butt approach is when you found a leftover cigar and you squeeze for a drag for the last puff because it's free. He was making money doing this way, finding a steep discount of mediocre company. But eventually, Warren Buffett refined his investing philosophy in that he found investing in great companies at reasonable valuation makes so much more profit than making an investment in mediocre companies at cheap valuation. So now let's extrapolate this thought even further. What if we invest in a company that promises phenomenal growth, but we cannot even see the earnings for years to come? This financial fog is what's keeping Mr. Buffett from investing in tech companies. He invested in Apple, but only after Apple was making billions of dollars in profit. And more recently, Snowflake, the artificial intelligence company, trading at over 100 times sales without profit, was Mr. Buffett's first foray into this new growth tech investment. So how do we decide to make an investment when the assumptions baked in the financial models is very difficult to verify? How do you evaluate future incomes when the first revenue comes years from now? Are we investing when all it sells is story? So I always go back to fundamentals. What are the principles of building a sound business that any company should have? And after learning from numerous people and business books, including my own father, whom I consider as my most influential mentor, I believe in three ingredients of success. The first one is the business model. Are we planting our seed capital in a fertile soil or rocky ground? Are we flying our kite where there is no wind or when there is a strong tailwind? Business is the same. What is the unique value proposition that we are offering to customers that no other competitors can emulate? What is the moat, M-O-A-T, moat? This is the key question. When Jeff Bezos started delivering books, people thought he would never make money. But in hindsight, we could have visualized that there was no need for bookstores to sell books. It is only apparent when it is done. People that can see the future or the potential of what can become are truly brilliant and courageous, like Elon Musk, for example. Tesla now is selling and producing, approaching 1 million cars annually, over 60% of the global EV market share, and making 1 billion of profits in the last quarter. Now, whether this valuation of $800 billion reasonable, I think it's a different debate, but at least he has made it this far. I don't know if you know this fact about Tesla. Contrary to most people's knowledge, Tesla was not founded by Elon Musk. It was founded by two guys in 2003 by the names of Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Elon Musk took over the helm from them only in 2004 after he sold PayPal's and paid $6.5 million for majority share in Tesla and made Tesla what it is today. Now, why am I bringing this story up? So I would make this potentially controversial argument, but very important. As important the business model is, I believe even more important is the qualification of the founder. A brilliant founder is someone who can overcome challenges and self-doubt through creativity and resiliency. Business model have to be tweaked or fine-tuned as stumbling blocks continue to fall upon us. And we see these examples numerously in our investment portfolio, whether it's my personal investment into Putra Group or Endeavor Indonesia Network. The most important factor in investing is the founders. And I repeat, a brilliant founder is someone who can overcome challenges and self-doubt through creativity and resiliency. Now, creativity and resiliency translate to one thing: execution. A brilliant leader is someone that can lead and make things happen. But being brilliant is not enough. Who do you think will win between one brilliant founder working by her or himself, or another brilliant founder relying on his collaborative team to execute? Jeff Bezos, in his early days, needed to isolate himself for a week so that he can focus on thinking creatively and strategically. So he needs a lieutenant who can continue to lead the operations day to day. And in that, he has Andy Jassy, the new CEO of Amazon. Steve Jobs, he can think creatively because he has Tim Cook to execute on operation. So this is a very important dynamic and characteristics when we look at and evaluate founders or leaders. Can he or she build a successful winning team? Or is she or he stuck on being a one-person company? You know how big Microsoft is today? Not only it is a $2 trillion company, but it is the largest company in enterprise solution or SaaS, head-to-head in cloud computing against Amazon AWS, is leading in mobile gaming and others. So if you don't build team, you cannot achieve those big dreams. So companies failed in execution, I believe, can be traced into just two root causes: poor performing teams or broken processes or systems or technology. So I've spoken enough about people. So now let's talk about processes, systems, and technology. And this is a segue to answering the question of profitability versus growth. What do you think is the key difference between traditional companies and tech companies, between value versus growth stocks? I believe it lies on one key thing: network effect, the speed at which customers are acquired and retained. Network effect is the reason tech startups disrupt traditional, slow-changing, inflexible companies. Whoever has the latest technology and able to scale up adoption by customers because of their efficiencies and aesthetic design will win. And whoever can win customers can win investors' money. Why might you ask? Well, just look at the index chart of NASDAQ 100 versus Dow Jones. as proxies of growth versus value. Since 1971, NASDAQ 100 returns 8,000% versus Dow 3,000%. So NASDAQ 100 beats almost 3 times Dow Jones. It is no brainer that growth will prevail. So whoever have both elements of best customer experience and biggest war chest will definitely win. And the two is a virtuous cycle. The more you gain customer, the more investors want to invest in you. It is a self-fulfilling prophecy. So focus on profit or growth for early stage. My answer is focus instead on achieving best customer experience and raising sufficient funds from solid and high quality investors. Remember, profit can actually be a drag to business because they focus on short-term gain as opposed to investing in the technology of the future. So whoever has the most volume and efficiency will win because they have more pricing power, the ability to undercut pricing and bleed your competitors. And always be productive paranoia on how your competitors can disrupt you from these two aspects: best customer experience and having A-list financial backers. So now allow me to share with you a story of a founder or startup that is both customer-centric and got the backing of high-quality investors. I've been very lucky to be involved in the last several years with the Endeavor Network, a global network of notable founders and startups who are making significant impact around the world. So Gibran Huzaifah, an ITB graduate, is an Endeavor entrepreneur who started eFishery in 2013. It has a unique business model. Through implementation of IoT or Internet of Things, such as sensors and automatic feeding system, feeding costs at fish farms can actually be reduced by 21%. And everything can be operated conveniently and remotely by farmers using their smartphones. And more importantly, eFishery digitally transforms a traditional market by increasing the fish farmers' harvesting time and therefore providing extra capital for the farmers. eFishery operates across 120 cities in Indonesia, serving more than 17,000 fish farmers across Indonesia. By August of this year, its revenue has grown 5x year on year, and it targets to acquire 200,000 farmers and 500,000 fish ponds by end of next year. Very ambitious goals. So Gibran of eFishery displays those three key ingredients of success that I mentioned just now. Disruptive business model based on unique value proposition to its customers. Brilliant founder who can build team and execute well. And finally, best processes, system, and technologies that allow for scalability, for network effect. Now, this North Star-backed startup, according to Deal Street Asia, now Temasek, SoftBank, and Sequoia are going to participate in its Series C funding and potentially awarding the company a unicorn status. So that's a great story. And now let me just close with slightly more cautious notes. First, beware of cycles. Now it is easy money policy environment, but you never know when the window might close. The Fed is tapering soon. So I would say, make sure that you have at least 18 months of runway in terms of funding, and make sure that you do the fundraising as soon as possible. And secondly, not all growth companies are created equal. Is it blue ocean? Am I creating unlimited opportunities, or am I simply squeezing more from the same lemon? And more importantly, am I burning more from each customer acquisition than I'm gaining revenue from them? Jangan gali lubang tutup lubang, very dangerous. And finally, be wary of founders whose ambition exceeded their own integrity. I remember vividly years ago when I read on the cover of Fortune magazine about a young lady who invented a new way of non-intrusive blood testing remotely that became an inspiration to me for, at the time, my 6-year-old daughter, only to learn a decade later that the invention was pure fraud. So whether we are an investor or a founder, whether we're pursuing growth or value, make sure impeccable reputation based on values is the foundation of everything we do. Because at the end of the day, that is most important. Thank you again for allowing me to speak at this forum.
Thank you very much, Pak Arif, Patrick, Rahmat, for the very insightful speech just now. I would like right now to summarize all of the 3 topics that have been discussed before regarding our first session. So basically, if we see Indonesia right now, our backbone economy are now being driven by SMEs. As what Pak Fadjar Hutomo said, that a lot of SMEs are currently going down through the pandemic. Therefore, we need a lot of collaborations, we need a lot of transformations, specifically the transformations in digital economy. Speaking about digital economy, we cannot separate that digital economy really circulates in the digital financial system. As Aldi Adrian said, that right now, financial system in Indonesia are going through a really exciting digital transformation, starting from the basic services until the wealth management. And I think this is very exciting for Indonesia going forward. And lastly, coming from Pak Arif, Patrick, Rahmat, he said that this is the momentum for us to be a great entrepreneur, to be brave, and to ride the wave of transformation. Be a very brave founder, a very high integrity founder, so all of us can achieve more than we can imagine. Lastly speaking, I would like to make my closing remarks. It is a very, very happy and inspiring event for me, and I feel very privileged here to be moderating this first session, and hopefully all of the participants can feel the benefit and inspired by all of the speakers. Lastly speaking, I would like to thank you, all of the committee and the participants that are already here, and coming back to you, Aldi, as the MC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andri, as our amazing moderator. And I would like to also thank our outstanding speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of the first session, but please don't go anywhere because we will have more exciting discussion right after the commercial break.
The digital era continues to move as a result of technological advances and globalization. Bank Negara Indonesia is proud of having the opportunity to take part in playing active roles in paving the way for Indonesian banking in keeping with the digital era. Currently, we are moving to create a digital platform and prepare experts for acceleration in digital banking. Our Go Global concept is one of the roles in accelerating economic change for the better. With the presence of Explorer, we encourage the digitization of micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as companies in Indonesia to go international by utilizing BNI's overseas network. BNI, serving the country, the pride of the nation.
For you who hustle before the sun even rises, sailing through life with the spirit that keeps you moving. We've heard of all your determination, which become the calling for BRI with Pegadaian and PNM to synergize, bringing you an ultra-micro ecosystem it is not for us. It is for you and the nation to go forward, raising you up to grow, handing you answers, bringing you changes for a better life, and opening endless opportunities for everyone to grow even greater all over Indonesia.